Hello and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hi, my name's Zoe. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. I really do hope that you decide to subscribe and also turn that bell on so you're notified every single time that I post. And if you're a current subscriber, please make sure that your bell is on so you receive a notification every single time that I post. So before getting into today's video, I just want to address that there is a buzzing noise in the background. That is because I am filming on my phone. It does it every time I film on my phone. I don't know where the buzzing noise is coming from. I don't know what's causing it. I am so sorry. I hope that you could just ignore it and watch this video anyway, but if it bothers you too much, I do apologise. So as you can tell from the title, today we are going to be talking about a very sensitive topic. If this topic bothers you or triggers you, please click off the video and go and find something else to watch. It's probably not the best video for you. So today we are talking about ectopic pregnancy, and most importantly we're going to be talking about my experience with it. This is something that I'm going through at this very moment, and I wanted to talk about it whilst it was most fresh in my mind, just so I can tell you exactly how I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing, my symptoms, etc, etc. If you're watching this because you think there's a chance that you have an ectopic pregnancy and you've been searching around YouTube exactly like I have, if for any reason you think that you're going through this, please just contact a health professional. So my whole experience started over 2 weeks ago now, but I had no clue that it was an ectopic pregnancy. So an ectopic pregnancy is basically where the pregnancy isn't in your uterus, but it's somewhere else outside the uterus, and most commonly they are found in your fallopian tubes. Unfortunately, a pregnancy outside your uterus cannot survive, but the most important thing is that these types of pregnancies are very dangerous. You can bleed internally, your tubes can rupture, and it can kill you, and that is not an over exaggeration. So just to get a little TMI, and this video is probably going to be all over TMI, but I need to talk about these things. So over 2 weeks ago I started to bleed, which was very abnormal for me. I normally bleed once a month on my usual period that lasts 5 days, and I get that at the same time every month. But last month I got my period on the 14th of February like normal, and then a couple of days after my period had finished I started to bleed. Now I have been taking Cerazette, which is a contraception pill, so I assumed the irregular bleeding was down to that pill. So I decided to stop taking the pill and was hoping that the bleeding would stop. I went on for over 2 weeks of bleeding, and I was bleeding every single day. It wasn't quite like a period. It really didn't concern me because I thought I'd messed up my whole cycle with the contraception pill, so I assumed that things would just go back to normal over time. Now I was suffering with a little bit of abdominal pain, but it wasn't anything that was too much. Like again, I just thought my cycle was messed up. Maybe my body thought I was having a period, so I just brushed it off as completely normal. There had been a couple of people around me who had actually said, go to the doctor, get it checked out. And I said, well, he's just gonna tell me it's a period. I'm gonna waste this doctor's time. It is pointless me going to the doctors. That's exactly what I thought. I'm one of those people, I don't like to use up doctors' time. I know how other people need that time, and it's sort of a blessing to be able to go to the doctors and get that advice and that help for free, and I want other people to use it who actually need it. So if I'm under the impression that I'm really not that poorly, then I will not go. And that's kind of what I did in this situation. So on Friday I had been bleeding just the exact same way that I had been doing for the last 2 weeks, and I didn't still think anything of it, and I went to work as normal. As most of you know from my social media, I work at McDonald's, so it is quite a hard job in the way that you're always on your feet, you're always moving about, you don't really get a minute to yourself, you're always doing something. If I was ever in pain or anything like that, I would have never really thought about it because I was at work and I was doing so many things. So my mum picked me up from work on the Friday around 7 PM because I was actually going out that night with some friends, and I was so excited just to have a drink and have a dance and just get my makeup on and feel really good, because I've been through a lot mentally recently, so I wanted to just be able to let my hair down and enjoy myself. So I got home, and after being home for around 30 minutes, I got the most excruciating pain. I cannot describe it. I have been in labour, I have had contractions, and I have never felt anything like I felt at that moment. I was on all fours, I was rocking and I was crying. I didn't know what to think, I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't concentrate because the pain was so unbearable. I didn't have painkillers at home, which was sad, so my partner did go out to get some painkillers. Now, the pain had been going on non-stop for over an hour now, and I started to get worried, and my partner started to get worried. So we thought it was time to maybe get some help. So I decided to ring 111 because I was not ringing an ambulance just for abdominal pain. I was adamant that it wasn't that bad. So I rang 111 and decided that I would speak to a nurse over the telephone and see what she thought. Simply because it was after 8 o'clock at night, there are no doctor's surgeries really open at that time, but over here in England, if you ring the NHS 111, they can normally get a doctor to call you back, or they can get you an emergency appointment with a doctor. So that is what I was hoping to do. Hopefully get to speak to somebody and find out what was going on. Now, I was on hold for over 45 minutes with the NHS 111, which I totally understand. At the minute, the service is overrun because everybody who suspects they've got coronavirus has to ring that number because they're not safe to go into any public places. But that phone call must have been the worst phone call of my life. I was sat and I was rocking, I was crying, I was screaming, and this is no over exaggeration, whilst I was on the phone waiting to be answered. And when a nurse finally answered me and I told her my symptoms, I told her exactly what was going on, she asked me some routine questions. She decided that it was best that I go to A&E. Now, she said she was going to send an ambulance to me, but it wasn't a priority ambulance or anything like that. They would just come when they are free to come and get me, to check me over and take me to the hospital. I'm sorry if I'm talking slow or fast or differently in this video. I am taking a lot of painkillers, so that affects my brain, and so I'm sorry if that's coming across in this video. After a little while, I thought it was best that I get a taxi to the hospital. I couldn't sit there and bear thinking that that ambulance was going to come and get me and someone else wouldn't be able to get the help they need. So I thought it was best just to jump in a taxi, pay the money, and do what I needed to do to get some help. So I got to A&E and it was late Friday night, so as you can imagine, the wait times are absolutely crazy. So I was in there probably 6 hours before I was seen by anybody. In that 6 hours, I did have a blood test so that when somebody would see me, they'd be able to see that that's already been done, which was great, so that was out of the way. So when I eventually got shouted through by a doctor, they took me through to the major trauma unit. Now, I personally didn't believe that I was going through some sort of major trauma. Maybe that's the only place that they had a bed or a cubicle, but that's where they took me. And I was talking to a doctor and he said, is there any chance you are pregnant? Because that again is a routine question that they have to ask any woman when they are suffering from abdominal pain and bleeding. And I said no. I told him about the contraception that I had been taking. I said there's no chance that I could be pregnant. So he said yeah, that's fine. What we'll do is we'll double check your blood results, we'll do a urine test, and then we'll take it from there. So I said okay, that's great. A little while later, I'd done the urine test and gave it to the nurse. As I gave my urine test to the nurse, the doctor walked in and he said my bloods were absolutely fine. There was an infection in my blood which suggested that I probably had a pelvic infection, and that's where the pain was coming from, because the pain was more in my lower tummy and in my pelvis. And he said that the bleeding was probably down to the contraception giving me irregular bleeding. So I was like, great, antibiotics for a week, get sorted, get feeling better, and on my way. As the doctor was leaving the room, the nurse came running in and told us both that I was in fact pregnant and I was probably miscarrying. And in that moment, I was totally shocked. I was crying. I was sat there on my own. I didn't have my partner with me because he was with my little boy at home. I felt so alone. I didn't know who to tell. I didn't know what to do, and I had all these thoughts rushing through my mind because I knew full well if I was pregnant, then I was miscarrying. So the doctor turned around and said, well, that changes our plans. You're not being discharged. You're going to have to go up to the gynecology ward and let them deal with you and find out what's happening. When I was taken up to the ward, I spoke with a gynecologist who said he wanted to examine me and do some internal exams just to find out exactly what was happening. And he said it seemed like all the pain that I was having was on one side, which is quite concerning, because that usually means ectopic pregnancy. My observations were great, I was doing well, so he said he was happy with me going home and just waiting for a phone call to go for a scan at the early pregnancy unit. So in that moment, I didn't know whether I was miscarrying, whether it was an ectopic pregnancy, whether this baby was absolutely fine. I had no ideas at all. Now bear in mind, I was still in pain. I was in agonising pain. I was still bleeding all at this time. Now 2 days later, on the Sunday, I got a phone call which I thought was for my scan, but it turns out it was the ladies at the gynecology clinic who were saying I needed to go in, have some more blood tests just to kind of get some idea of what this pregnancy was doing, because if my hormone levels were rising, that meant the pregnancy could be okay. If they were decreasing, that meant that I was having a miscarriage, and if they went up in a weird sort of way, they didn't totally explain that to me, but if they went up in a weird way. So I made my way to the hospital to go and have some more blood tests, and she explained everything that was happening, and she said she would call me within a couple of hours just to let me know what the blood test results said. So I tried to wait around, but by 6 p.m. I had to be at home. I've got a baby at home, so I went all the way home to pick up my little boy from his nana's, and by the time I got there, I got a phone call. And she said that the hormones were rising in a weird way, which indicated ectopic pregnancy, so I needed to go back to be admitted. When I got back to the ward, they had a doctor there waiting to scan me, and when he did scan me, he confirmed that it was an ectopic pregnancy, and I had a mass of about 5 centimetres on my ovary. He said it looked like this mass was also bleeding into my tummy, which can be quite dangerous. So he said I needed to be admitted and possibly taken down for emergency surgery that evening. So I was admitted to the hospital. I was sat and I was on hold, ready to go for surgery. I didn't know when that was going to happen. They had me on fluids, on different painkillers, on different drips, and they also had somebody just watching me, keeping a close eye on me, because if an ectopic pregnancy ruptures, as I've said, it can kill you. It can make you really poorly really quickly. The next morning, a doctor had come to me and said, you need another ultrasound just so we can see exactly what is going on before we do your surgery. They also explained what the surgery would be like. They said it would be keyhole surgery, but if they couldn't access the ectopic pregnancy because of bleeding, they would have to do a C-section type of scare to get into my tummy and get rid of the ectopic pregnancy. I went for the ultrasound, and about an hour later another doctor came to see me, and she said luckily the bleeding had stopped. I was no longer bleeding internally, and they said that if I was to go into surgery, I would lose my whole fallopian tube, which would mean there would be a 50% less chance of me getting pregnant in the future. And with me being only 23 years old, that is shocking news. I know that a lot of people get such a lower number, a lot of people really struggle, but to go from 100% to 50% is really, really sad. So the doctors decided that they would try a different method to get rid of the ectopic pregnancy. They said they would inject me with some chemotherapy drugs, and these drugs would attack the dividing cells, I think it is. So I agreed to have the injections, and this was on Monday, and now we are at Wednesday and I feel absolutely like crap. They told me I would feel this way. I am dosed up on painkillers. I feel like I'm getting no better, if I'm totally honest with you. I have a follow-up appointment on Friday for some more tests, and then I'll have another appointment for Monday. I have been advised to do nothing for 2 weeks. I have been advised not to lift my son, not to play with my son. I have basically been told just to put my feet up, to do absolutely nothing, and just to let this whole situation pass. Personally, like I just said, I don't feel any better. If not, I feel worse. I don't know if that's normal. I don't know if I'm meant to feel that way. I am nauseated. I am fatigued. I am sleeping all day and all night. I am in absolute agony. I can't eat, I can't go to the toilet, and honestly this thing has totally messed me up, not only physically but mentally. I was struggling mentally anyway, but to be going through this on top of everything else just seems to be sending me on that backward slope. I don't feel like myself because I am so poorly. All I can think about is hopefully it's doing its job, hopefully the medication is working, and that is why I feel so bad. They do say it's got to get worse before it gets better. I don't know if that is relevant to this sort of thing. I would really appreciate it if anybody has gone through an ectopic pregnancy and gone through the medical management side of things. If you could let me know exactly how you felt in the days afterwards, that would be great, because I kind of feel alone right now. That is another reason why I haven't been posting. I'm sick of saying sorry for not posting. I am sick of feeling like I have no motivation, because I want to be posting every single week. I want to be back how I was before Christmas, and I just feel awful for letting you get locked down. I just want to be me again, but hopefully once I get this whole situation out of the way, I'll feel a lot better again. I have had some amazing support of some amazing friends the past couple of days, which has really made me feel better, so hopefully I am now on the mend. So that is all for today's video. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a massive thumbs up. Please hit that subscribe button, and I shall see you in my next video.